At certain times, if you have a question, you can always use the chat function down below. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, there's a chat function and you can type in a question. And me as the moderator, I'll handle those questions and try to get those to Brian to answer. Now, Brian, you're obviously well to do if you want to just have a short Q&A time. You know, anytime during your presentation, you can stop and ask for questions and we can open it up and do it live if you want to do it that way too. But I thought this might work better, at least for now. We'll kind of feel our way through it. Other than that, you know, you guys are free to keep your video on if you want and watch. I guess you don't really have to. I have right now everybody muted. Once we get to the Q&A time where we actually ask live questions, just unmute yourself and then you can ask your question. Otherwise, just type your questions in the chat function, and as the moderator, I'll try to work through those. Other than that, Brian will be the clinician for tonight. He's going to be speaking tonight on pitching, handling players, coaches, and lineup sheets. So I'm going to keep track based on the participant list, who's here, and I'll write those names down and give those to Laura so she's got them. And I'm also recording the session as well for future use. So we're going to hopefully get this recording up on the MASA website. So for those who couldn't join tonight or having issues, hopefully they'll be able to view it later. All right. With that being said, Brian, I'm going to hand control over to you, and you can start. Just a second here. Brian, you may have to ask for control, actually. Let me check here just to be sure. I gotta find your name from the list. Oh, we lost Brian. That was the problem.
There, I made it. Greetings. We lost our host.
I'm here. Brian, you should be able to host now. So you should be able to share your screen. You have to unmute yourself.
Up here. There, let's try that.
Here we go.
All right, good. First of all, Matt, thank you for taking care of this and getting this all taken care of for District 11. As you said, it is brand new to a lot of us, and we will get through the best we can with this. Laura, I would like to congratulate you also on basically being the first districts to go with a Zoom meeting. As far as having something going on to get our umpires ready to go again for the new season. As most of you know, last year was a one for the ages, if you want to call it that. A lot of us didn't get a lot of games in, but this year we're looking forward to it. We've got a lot of meetings coming up as far as at the national and state level, and along with Laura and her meetings, and of course the district meeting. So I just wanted to pass that along. What did we end up with so far on this? About 12, 15 people, Matt? Did you have that or? Okay.
I'm counting them right now.
Okay. So this is we've got that many. That's a great turnout for us.
Got 16.
16, that's great to start off with. Being on January 11th, a lot of us aren't even thinking about softball yet. So we'll go from there. My topics that Laura had for me, and one more thing I should reiterate, is since I'm on the national staff, Kevin Ryan, our director of umpires, decided yesterday that we needed to have a meeting tonight. So I will be exiting this call about 8 o'clock, and Laura will take over at that point and cover the rest of the agenda. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes when you have more than one title or things trying to do all in one time, it makes it difficult. So, but we'll get going through this. If you have any questions, Matt will monitor this. I will go through so much, then I'll stop. And if we have a question, then we can go from there. My first topic that I had was pitching. I also have handling of players and coaches. And then if we have time, Laura will probably end up with lineup cards and so forth. And she'll probably be taking care of part of the handling of players and coaches also. But let's start with slow pitch, because I believe most of us that are on this call are going to be slow pitch umpires. So we'll start with this. So we have to have the height distance, 6 to 10 feet. The biggest thing is with this is enforce it early and continue to enforce it. The worst thing that we can do as umpires is enforce it early in the game, and then as the game gets on, the players or the pitcher decides to go higher or lower, and we don't enforce that, and now the game starts to get a little bit out of hand. Set the tone early, enforce it early, and go from there. We also have to watch, and it seems like it's getting to be more of a trend this year, or the last couple of years, is the quick pitching. So remember, that's an illegal pitch. If you're not ready, or the batter you don't feel is ready, get your hand up, slow down play, and if they call it, if they want a quick pitch, then we have rules to take care of that also. The other thing that seems to be is excessive speed. They want to throw a little bit more than what we want to. Now, this is strictly your judgment as far as if they're throwing with excessive speed. It's an illegal pitch. We're going to warn them, and then if they continues, then we're going to remove them from the pitching position for the remainder of the game. That way, it gives us a chance to protect ourselves, because if the ball comes in with excessive speed, the batter swings at it and fouls it off, and we're back there without any protection, makes it a little bit rough. Remember that if we have a penalty for an illegal pitch, and if the ball it's a ball in the batter unless they swing at it, then all action is live. It doesn't matter whether they hit the ball or not. If they swing at it, then the ball is live. So if they swing and miss, it's a strike on the batter. Okay. Do we have any questions at this point? I'll try to do it after every segment of that. Open it up for any questions. Matt, did you see any questions come through?
Nothing so far, no.
Okay. Well, I must have got this right. Well, Scott's just chomping at the bit here, probably. So preliminaries. In national play, we have to have 1 foot in the pitcher's plate. In our state play in the local area, we have come up with a guideline that we will allow them up to 6 feet behind the pitcher's plate. If you notice, there's no line back there behind the pitcher's plate that says it's a 6 foot. So basically, at this point, we're using our judgment. They start to get back there a little bit farther and farther. Let's face it, the ball's going to have to come in at excessive speed to come in and drop behind the plate. So that's what we have to look at. If they get back a little bit too far, just hey, move it up. This is where the base umpires can help out. And also, they must have the ball in front of their body, and the body must be facing the batter. They must come to a full and complete stop for at least 1 second. So if we sit there and we start going, if we count, we go 1001, or we're on 1000, that's basically our second. We don't have to get a full second in there and then go another one. Now, if you've got a pitcher that wants to get out there and they want to hold the ball longer than that, then we have then we worry about the timing with that. They can hold the ball for 10 seconds with their hands together like that, and then we can call a ball on them for a delay of game. Legal delivery, underhand, must be continuous. It must be delivered on the first forward swing past the hip. This delivery cannot be behind the back or through the legs. And if a step is taken, it must be taken forward, backward, or sideways. So we open it up to that point too. Question I have at this point, Matt, if you want to open this up for right now, because I have a question I want to ask everybody, is if a runner left early on the pitch before the ball crosses the front edge of the plate,
Ryan, you may have to
Yeah.
unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, there I am. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you want me to repeat the question then?
Yes, please.
Okay. If a runner left early on a pitch prior to the ball reaching the front edge of the plate, we as an umpire, do we call dead ball or no pitch first?
Dead ball.
Okay.
We only caught half of that, Todd.
I said dead ball.
Yep. All right. Okay. But we have a lot of umpires that call no pitch first. So why would we want to call dead ball first, Todd?
To stop all action because that runner is out. They're left early. So we want to make sure that they understand that if he ends up going on hitting the ball, we've still got nothing. That play does not matter.
That's true. The other thing is what happens is if we call dead ball, most likely everybody knows we're going to get an out after this. The other thing is, think about this. If we call no pitch on this thing, now we come up with dead ball. That could be like we're making an excuse with that player leaving early. Use the words for no pitch for something that may happen. A ball comes onto the field from another a foul ball from another area, a bug flew in your eye, whatever, you can yell no pitch and that stops it at that point. Okay? Any other questions at this point before we go back to having Matt mute y'all? Okay. All right. Any other questions in regards to the slow pitch part of it? It's pretty well cut and dry. I mean, we've made this rule real simple now, and the game is supposed to be very enjoyable out there, but we still have a few pitchers that want to get a little bit carried away as far as trying goofy stuff. Just remember, they've got to stop with the ball. The ball's got to be in front of them, and they've got to, when they deliver the ball, it's got to be the first forward motion past the hip, and no more than 12 or 10 foot high, and no less than 6 foot. Okay, if the ones with the 6 foot are a little bit, you have to call it quick, and you have to enforce it the rest of the way. Fast pitch. By a show of hands, Matt, you can tell me with a show of hands, how many fast pitch umpires do we have on this call?
Trying to see here. I don't know if all of them do fast pitch. I know Bob Barrett's on, and Jason Gibson's on,
Jay's on,
and
You
Todd
got-
Compton's on.
Todd's on, okay.
Jay's,
So-
Tess is on.
Jay's fast
Tess
pitch
is
as
on.
well, and so is
Okay.
Tess, and that's about it. Tess, Bob,
Okay.
Todd, Lee, Jay.
All right, good. Well, with fast pitch, we have in all our games right now, we have to have only 1 foot on the pitcher's plate, which is new in 2020. So we basically made it easier for the JO people. We made it easier for the women's game to only have 1 foot on. That's basically what a lot of the other places are going with. High school is that way, college is that way. The international game is that way. So USA softball went the same way, 1 foot on. But what we do ask is that if they take a signal or simulate a signal, their hands must be separated. They can be on top of the pitcher's plate or in contact with the pitcher's plate, or they can be behind the pitcher's plate. If they come onto the pitcher's plate after simulating taking a signal, then their hands still must come together, and they must still basically pause on top of the plate to give us that they're simulating taking a signal there. Basically what that does is it slows us down as far as the batter being ready, you as an umpire being ready, and everything coming in together. When they bring together their hands, they can hold their hands together for not more than 10 seconds. If they do that more than 10 seconds, then we have a ball on the batter. Same thing as far as in slow pitch, it must be underhand and continuous. No more, and basically with this though, is no more than 2 revolutions of the arm on a windmill delivery. Because you will have some that will start, they'll take their hand forward, then they'll bring it back, and they'll do the windmill delivery, which that's all perfectly legal. Illegal pitches, which is a little bit different in fast pitch as it is in slow pitch. In adult, all runners move up 1 base and we have a ball on the batter. In JO, they changed the rule, a ball on the batter, and there's no movement of the runners moving up a base. Okay. Questions in regards to the pitching stuff?
So I just sent out a chat message to everybody. I don't have the ability, unfortunately, to unmute the participants. I can only mute them. So if you do have a question, you're gonna have to unmute yourself, ask your question, and then hit mute button again.
It's about time they changed that pitching rule, for God's sakes.
Well, basically a lot of it, you're talking about the JO rule there, Laura, or,
Yeah.
yeah, with the
Start
wiggle
with
pitch.
1 foot.
Yeah, 1 foot, it makes it really nice because now it ties in with the high school more. You know, it gives the girls at that point that go from high school, they don't have to worry about now having 2 feet on and so forth. So that makes it really nice. So, and plus the question will be to all of us that work fast pitch now that they've changed the rule with 1 foot on is how many years before we get the pitchers that want to leap more. Right now, they're all in their rhythm. They like the 1 foot off. But I think as the years go on, we're going to see more of the pitchers trying to get more of a larger stride and more of the leaping. And we still have to enforce that. So that's what we'll end up with. But it's like everything else. We'll make do with it at that point. So, okay. Nobody else had any other questions as far as the pitching?
Nope, doesn't appear to be.
Oh, that's good. Either that or they're still in the winter mode and we're not thinking softball. So.
Welcome, Mr. Smoker. It's good to see your face. You got to unmute, honey. You're muted. We can't hear you. There are ball players out there that would love this option.
No, they wouldn't. Besides that, I noticed Trump up in the corner on the right-hand side. You hear me now?
Yep. Now
We can hear you now, Ron. So.
Yeah, you guys should know that I'm sitting here listening and talking with you, and it's my wife's birthday today, so just say happy birthday, because if you don't, you're going to have to sing it. And Ackerson has to lead it.
I don't want to sing. I suck at singing.
Well, Lee has to come to the door and sing.
Oh.
Lee, you're
Okay.
very handsome on here, by the way. Lee, you're very handsome on here. Well, you were. Dan, wake up.
Yeah, this is the tough part with Zoom calls. You can't take a nap as
Dan, is Dan on mute right now? Because I can't hear him.
Yeah, he's muted. Almost all of us are.
Hey, Ron. I unmuted myself so I can talk to you. How you doing, buddy?
You unmuted yourself so you had to stop sleeping. I know what you were doing, Dan.
I'm trying to get through this, okay?
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, by the way, for some of you folks that may or may not know of it, it's not directly umpire related, and some folks may not know him. Anybody here remember or know Eddie Salazar?
who?
Eddie Salazar. Kind of short, stocky Hispanic guy from out in the Lake Odessa area.
Was he the guy that pitched with one hand?
No, I know who you're thinking of.
Okay.
Eddie's been around the game a long time. He's
I
actually
bet
also
we
been
know.
JV basketball coach at Lakewood. He died about 3 weeks ago at age 55.
Oh, man. Was it COVID?
I think it's COVID related. Yeah. Yeah, he's somebody that started playing with my team last summer, but I've known him over the years. Most of the people who play at the upper level, slow pitch, wouldn't know who he is.
Right.
But it wasn't anything that got known commonly around the area at all.
Great guy. Really appreciative of good umpiring.
Oh, Jay know who's he then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I had a gentleman off my over 70 team and over 60 team who finally lost his wife to brain tumor about 10 days ago. Tom Bolt, Jay might remember him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Tommy.
BOLT?
BOLT, yeah. He was a volleyball official too, but I don't know there's many volleyball officials hanging around here.
I worked with Tom at the state. He worked for the Department of Treasury.
Yep. So then you know who he is then.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know who he is too. He's a great guy.
Yep, definitely. He spent the whole last year pretty much taking care of his wife. as we all know, if we've got older family members.
Yeah, I know Tom too.
Uh,
Yep.
Oh, Todd, I see you there now. Yeah.
Okay. Tough times there. We'll move on to, if we have no other questions with the pitching part of it, we'll go on to handling of players and coaches. And this is a fun topic for all of us. I think all of us, it's different for all of us on how we handle players and coaches. For somebody that's been around for a while, we can handle some of the players a little bit different than somebody that's a first-year umpire or a second-year umpire. As a newer umpire, you will be tested more than you will as a older veteran. And actually, it's as you get a little bit older and you have run-ins with some of these players, as they get older, they sort of mature a little bit and they don't give you as much hassle as much as they did years before, but not all of them. So, okay. And like I said, what I may be able to do as an umpire in a fast pitch game is not the same as I can maybe in the slow pitch game, because some of the players in the slow pitch may not have seen me around as much in the last few years working slow pitch. So they're going to test me too, because they figure there's a new umpire out there. But it also goes back with, the same thing as far as a newer umpire coming up, they're going to be tested. And that's what we have to try to work with our people with that. And hopefully they can, as the umpires don't basically leave the game because of that. That's one of the things that we've heard, is that the players and coaches basically chase some of our umpires away. But if we can get through the first couple of years, learning the game and hustling, that's the biggest thing. If you go out there and hustle and you're in the spot, more of the coaches and players will give you more respect for that than what they will is if you're just standing in one spot and not making any calls. So now the other thing that we have to look at is when a player does come out or a coach want to come out and they want to talk to you, one of the things that I put on here first is listen to them, because they may come out and they may talk to you about something totally different off the wall. Case in point, we had a game going on, fast pitch game. We had to play at second base on a steal, play it close, late innings. They needed that runner at second base. Coach comes running out of the dugout, gets out to the umpire, and the umpire figures he's going to catch all sorts of heat from this coach. The coach looks at him and he says, it's pretty hot out here, isn't it? They just started chatting like nothing else. And basically the coach turned around and said, thank you, and walked back in there, and everybody figured that they had a good 2-minute argument. And that's basically what it boiled down to. I've had a situation also where I had a coach come out and I started to explain stuff to him. And he says, you got to listen to me. And I said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll listen to you, but you got to listen to me too on what this call was, because it was an interference type call. So the coach barked a little bit. He started to walk away. I says, no, you don't get to leave. And he looked at me and he says, what? I says, you didn't even listen to me. So get back over here so I can tell you what's going on out here. And so, of course, he comes back and it looks like he's coming back to give me more. And that's when I talked into him. So those are the things that we as umpires, like I said, the veteran umpires, they may get away with a little bit more. You basically have to set a tone when you go out there. You don't want it overbearing on the game. You don't want to be the person that doesn't let them do anything, but you also have to let them, give them a little bit of rope and then see what they do with it. The other thing with this is that if you start talking as they're coming up to you, it sounds like you're starting to make excuses right away. So if you listen to them first, now see what their question is. It could be totally different of what you even thought it was. And now what you can do is you can take a moment and you can talk to them, not try to over talk them, but just basically talk to them. Say, hey, coach, this is what we've got in my judgment. And those are the key words right there. If you say in my judgment, it makes it a little bit harder to argue, because this is what you've seen. This is how you felt with the call. This is how you felt. It's in your judgment with that. Don't use the word, I think this is what happened. because that's the first thing that's going to come out of their mouth is going to be, you think that happened. You weren't sure that was what it was. You just think that was it. So those are a couple of things that you want to look at. Couple of things here is that this is a basically an argument between the umpires, and has been for a lot of years. Do we meet them halfway if they come out of the dugout, or we do let them come all the way out to where we're at? And that's a question we have to look at. And I think you have to take into the game situation. You have to look at how the way the coach is coming out. If the coach is coming out walking to you, and you want to basically meet them halfway, that's fine. If they're coming out and running to you, and you just hold your ground, and maybe what you may do is you may take a step or two back, just to give them a little bit more feet to cover and everything else. So basically, this is what you want to look at: is take the game situation the way it is. Don't run up to meet them, because now it looks like you're the aggressor. And that's the one thing we don't want to be, is we don't want to be the aggressor in this situation. We want to make them come out, and if they do end up getting tossed, this is what we want to look at. We don't want to put any burden on us showing that we were the aggressor, we did this. The other thing that you want to do is don't use the word, if they're coming out arguing, don't say to them, one more word and you're out of here. Because what do you think the word's going to be that they say? Okay. If they say okay, was that the one more word? So do you get rid of them at that point, or do you let them spout a little bit more and then dump them again? So try not to use the one more word. The other thing is somebody asked me one time, what basically makes you throw somebody out? And I always have gone with the thing is, don't make it personal. What I mean by that is, if they start a sentence off with "you are," it better end up with a pretty good umpire or a nice guy or something like that. Think about anything that they start that off with "you are," or going with that type of thing, is basically what they're looking at, is they're making it personal now. So any feedback on that type of stuff? Matt, if you want to unmute for a minute.
Yeah, they have to unmute themselves. So if you do have a question, just unmute
right,
yourself and ask your question.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you that each individual situation has to be handled on its own merit, whether you meet them halfway or whether they taunt you or anything having to do with the whole handling the players or coaches. Because like you said, if they come running out at you, it's a whole different ball game. And if the coach comes out, for instance, Hub Waite was famous for it. He'd walk out after a questionable call and he'd look right at you and go, my team wants me to do this, nothing about it. Let's just smile and I'll walk away. Deal.
Laura, you are correct with that. That Hub did that to me in a district game at DeWitt. And he came out and his runner left so early, it wasn't funny, but the fans have been getting on the other team for leaving early. And I got their team, LCC's team, for leaving early. Hub came out and he says, you know why I'm out here? I says, yeah. He says, well, the fans think that I'm coming out here to chew you out. But he says, my God, she left way early. And I says, I know she did, Hub. That's why I called her out. He says, well, I had to come out here and talk to you anyhow, so I would just go back in the dugout. And that was it. Now, we had another one talking about, if you just do this, I'll turn around and walk away. Coach from UCLA would come out and she had an argument. She would sit there and she'd go, well, now if you tell me that you got the call wrong, I'll turn around and go back in the dugout. Otherwise, I'm going to stay out here. And we're just looking at her like, Coach, I didn't get the call wrong, so you might as well stay out here, and we'll have to get rid of you if you decide to stay out here. But that was her way of trying to get us to basically change things around. So there's a lot of interesting people as you start working up the ladder, as the people that have been around for a while. Interesting coaches that you meet along the way. Some of them are really great. Some of them they like to play games with you. And there's one coach that was in the college game that was a lawyer. So what he would try to do is he would try to twist words on you. So if he came out and he started talking to you and you said something, he goes, well, what do you mean by that? And so forth like that. And it would really be, you would have to be on your toes for that. And we had a couple situations where he got into that, and you had to be really careful with that. But I think we, as umpires, got the better hand of him in a couple situations. One situation, we had a call that happened. We changed the call. The ball got dropped in the outfield, and it went against his team because at first they thought they had a catch. He came out, and we basically, he came out to argue, and I told him, I says, look, I says, we would do the same thing for you. We would get the call right. And he says, what do you mean you do it for me? You did it for them because whatever. And I says, no, I told you we would do it for you. We're going to treat you the same way as that. Well, then he came up in between innings and he wanted to talk to me some more. And he had a pencil in his hand. And he came up to me and he started pointing this pencil in my face. And before we now were, I says to him, I says, Michael, I says, I thought you had more respect for me than that. I says, pointing a pencil in my face like that, that is just not called for. And he says, oh, I'm really sorry, Brian, I didn't mean it. So he takes a pencil out of his right hand, puts it in his left hand, takes his index finger of his right hand, and now starts pointing at me again. And I says, Michael, what are you doing? Now you're pointing at me with your finger. And he says, oh, I'm really sorry, Brian, I didn't mean it, da-da-da-da-da. What we did with that situation, we deflected the argument that we might have had, and basically now he forgot what he came out to argue about and talk about in between innings. And then we had to play, so we were all done. But those are the things that basically as you go by. I think there's a couple people on this call that remember Bud Stevens from Grand Blank Printers, Laura and Jay and like that. We had a situation at second base, and he came out to talk to the second base umpire. I walked out with him and I said, Bud, you know, if you come out here, you're going to get tossed. He says, yep, I do. And I says, so I get to stay with you and then walk you back, right? He says, yep, if that's what's going to take. I says, well, you know, I'm just going to let you know that you're going to get tossed if you come out here and talk to the second base umpire. So he walked all the way out there. He said his piece. He turned the second base umpire, ended up ejecting him. He looked at me and he says, okay, Brian, I'm ready to go. And we walked him back out of the thing. So that's basically the games you can play with the coaches sometimes. The other things that I look at too is throwing of equipment, and especially if it's directed at you or after a call. And it may not be so much a call that was that you made. It may be frustration on a player because they were called out and they were upset because the ground ball that they hit, they felt they wanted to get a base hit. So they throw their batting helmet or they throw a glove or whatever else. Yeah, that may be something that you may have to look at, because in a sense, they are in a sense embarrassing us, because nobody knows what that call was about, but they see the actions of the ball players. And that's what we have to look at. The other thing I look at is words that cannot be said on regular TV. So George Carlin used that in one of his stand-up acts, and there were 7 words you can't say on regular TV. And basically what I look at is if those words are used, and especially if they're used where everybody can hear them, then maybe somebody needs to leave and go out in the parking lot and talk to themselves. The other thing is that I look at, and this is what we looked at before is one time, is if you use the word, use the saying one more word. We talked about this briefly anyhow. If you say one more word, I was in a ball game one time where my partner said this to the coach, one more word 7 times. And that right there was a little bit, makes it a little bit rough, because, you know, now this coach keeps talking, and the coach was actually in the game. The other thing you want to look at too is back up your warnings. If you've warned a team for excessive use of the mouth on the bench, then go over it. If somebody keeps barking at them, then get rid of them. Get rid of somebody. It may be a scorekeeper. It may be the person on the bench that's not going to be playing anyhow, but you've set the message. We had this happen in a few games where we've warned the team, we've turned around and looked in the dugout, and we actually see players leaving the dugout because they don't want to get tossed, because they know that what's going to come next. So that's what you have to look at is back up your warnings. You know, if you warn them, that's what we've got to go with. Now, I had the other thing I have on here too is, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Don't try to out-argue the players or the spectators. You're not going to win. If they're yelling at you and you come back with what you think is a great one-liner, they're going to come back with 2 or 3, and then what are you going to do? So basically, try not to get involved with that. Basically, send your message out, whatever your message is, then go from there. I look at also, there's other approaches that we can use if we need to handle players and coaches. A lot of times what I'll use is a third party. And what I mean by that is that if you're having a problem with the pitchers complaining about balls and strikes, send the catcher out there. Give the catcher a message to relay back to the pitcher. Or if you've got, and this is, we've done this before too, where we've had a shortstop or a second baseman that's been, you know, giving us mouthy stuff about calls or whatever else. I may send a catcher out there and go, have your shortstop come in and tell him this message. And if you give them the message that, hey, we don't need to hear any more of your lip, we don't need to hear any more of this. So you guys are going to hear a phone in the background. I'm just going to let it ring. But anyhow, if you have that situation, you basically use your third party. And this has happened where the shortstop came up to me after the game and he said, if you got a message, send it, you come out and talk to me. And I just looked at him and I says, if I come out and talk to you, you are going to be all done. So this way you got to play. So those are the ways that we can look at it. The other thing is what we use is what I call a quiet approach. The quiet approach is going over, if you've got somebody that you really don't want to do the big fancy ejection and say, you know, hey, they're gone. Go over to the coach and go, hey, coach, number 5 has decided they don't want to play anymore tonight. And the coach will look at you and like, what do you mean? Well, it's like this. You can take the guy out of the game and I don't have to eject him. And he sits on the bench the rest of the night and he's real quiet. We're okay. But if I have to get rid of him, you know what's going to happen. So, and this has happened in games where the player, all of a sudden the substitution's coming out and the catcher looking at the bench going, what's going on? Coach just says, hey, you're all done for the night. So basically it takes the heat off of you. I also like to have a little bit of fun with them sometimes. I've been known to, when a coach has come out to argue with me, when I take a step forward, I've been known to step on their foot so they can't get away from me. I've also had a game one night out at Sharp Park where the guys were having fun, or they were basically barking about balls and strikes. So I went over to the dugout and I told them that we didn't need to hear anymore. I said, this is it. I started to walk away and I turned around and I said, I will give you guys credit. The last line you used was an original line. I had not heard that one before. And the players are all like, oh, great. So then another player popped up and he says, hey, Blue, if we come up with another original line, can we use it? And I said, I'll make a deal with you. If it's a line that I've heard, somebody leaves. If I haven't heard it, you can stay. Didn't have to worry about them the rest of the night because they didn't want to take the chance on somebody having to get thrown out. So that's another thing. But, you know, are you going to be able to do that in every situation? No. And I'm sure that if we went around the room here or around the call, there's certain things that we can get away with and go from there. Talking about third party, we had a situation where I had to play at second base. The second baseman had the ball in their glove hand, tagged the runner with the bare hand, So we come up with a safe call. The pitcher comes out. Now, mind you, this pitcher is their ace of their pitching staff. He was late to the game in the morning. We have a 9 o'clock game, and he got there about 9:30. And so the starting pitcher was their number 2 pitcher who was gassed out a little bit. So now the number 1 pitcher who was late shows up. So he comes out towards this play that we're discussing, and he looks at me and he says, Blue, a little bit too early for you? And I just looked at him and I says, I wasn't the one that was late this morning. The third baseman literally grabbed my arm and says, Brian, we need to go back over to third because I know what's going to happen next. And I don't need to lose my pitcher. So there you go. Basically, a third party, once again, third baseman stepping in to take care of this situation. The other thing I look at too is that we talked about the 7 words you can't say on TV. If you have a ball player or a coach that comes out and talks to you in a one-on-one setting, and especially if you're from the East Coast and every other word is an F-bomb, do you get rid of them at that point? I think you have to take that in consideration as far as what they're doing, if that's part of their thing. I've been in a situation in a stadium with a few thousand people sitting in there. I've had the coach come out on an interference call, and the coach's every other word is an F-bomb, wanting where the player has to go to avoid interference. What is she going to have to do? And, we're standing out there. And I mean, yeah, I could have thrown him out because he was using the F-bomb, but it wasn't directed at me the whole time. He never prefixed the word with you, you missed it, whatever, and went from there. So basically, that's what you have to look at too. If they come up and they're talking to you, like I said, there's some people out there that's all part of their vocabulary. Then we have to take that into consideration. So any questions on this before I go any farther with this? Any questions?
I had one comment before anybody speaks. Tess just had a comment, says when the coach comes out to talk to you, take off your sunglasses.
That's good. Tess, you want to go a little bit farther with that on why we should take off our sunglasses?
Just so that we can look the coach in the eye, and they don't necessarily ever take their sunglasses off, but at least we give them the courtesy of them being able to see our eyes while we're talking to them.
Correct. So that's a good point right there. So, even though they don't take theirs off, we can look right at them and go from there. So the other thing is too, is that when you have a situation with a coach or a player, and you notice that they're arguing with your partner, try to get within a little bit of distance. So when and if the person does get ejected, you can step in. I know there's a few umpires out here that do basketball also. So what's one of the guidelines when we do basketball, Jay? As far as if one person gives a technical, Jay Mouse.
Just remember, you have to unmute yourself before you can talk.
Sorry, I got a phone call here.
Oh, okay. All right. That's all right. I'll go on to somebody else. Who else does
Go on to
basketball?
someone else. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. Who else does basketball then? Anybody else do basketball? One of the things that they look at with this is that when in basketball, the same official shouldn't be given 2 technicals. So if the first one gives a technical, then what we try to do is get the other official in there, so that way if the same coach is not getting technicals from the same official. It's the same thing that we look at here with our softball umpires or with our umpires. If you have an ejection or you have somebody that's in there arguing, we need to clean that up, so that way we don't have to worry about if there's going to be any incident with bumping or so forth. Get the coach away from there. So that's what we have to look at. Keep it one-on-one with discussions too. If we have a situation where people are starting to gang up on people as far as your partner, get out there and get them away. We don't need to have 2-on-1, 3-on-1, so forth. You're going to have the one player says, well, I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to listen. No, get them out of there. Because as soon as they hear something they don't like, they're going to start putting in their 2 cents worth. And we don't need that. So that's what we have to look at. Try to keep them separated. Try to keep your partners away, keep the players and coaches away from your partner as much as possible if we get into that situation where the person has been ejected. Now they want to come in and get more of the umpire. No, we're not going to do that. Which also leads into the next thing, and I'm sure that Jamie will cover this later on, is that if you have an evening or a game that is really been one of those rough games, and you have to exit out the dugout and you've always exited out the third base dugout and that's where the team is, don't go that way. Go the first base dugout. Or if it's that way and you have nowhere else to go, head out to center field or whatever we need to do, or get somebody's attention from the other field to keep an eye on it. Walk out as a team, walk out on the field as a team, walk off the field as a team. And that basically what it does is it keeps anybody that wants to try to take a cheap shot at the umpires as far as getting their last verbal shots in at them and so forth. You've got somebody else that will hear what the comments are. You'll hear what they said. So that way, when the player says, I didn't say anything to him, then you can come back with that. If somebody comes up to you after the game and they're belligerent and so forth, get away from there as much as you can, go over to the other field, find somebody that can help you out with that. If you have to, if you're out to Erickson, excuse me, if you're out to Erickson, go up by the concession stand. If you need to, call the police and have them just to get them away from there. So, okay. The other thing that we have to look at with handling players and coaches, as we started off with, it's different for all of us. Every situation is different. What may have worked for you today may not work for you tomorrow. Case in point, used to be they would tell us if you had a catcher and pitcher arguing balls and strikes, come around and sweep off home plate, tell the catcher you didn't want to hear anymore, so forth, so forth. So I did that for quite a while. And then one time I did it. And when I went over to brush off the plate, the catcher had got up and went, as he left the plate area to go out to talk to the pitcher, he was out of my view as I was sweeping off the plate. So the whole time I'm telling the plate that I didn't want to hear any more arguing about balls and strikes, so forth, so forth. There was nobody else there except for me. So after that, I made up my mind that when I went off to brush off the plate, instead of looking at the plate, I would make sure I was looking at the catcher and they would get the message that way. So keep that in mind. Learn from each encounter. And what we mean by that is when you have an ejection, you get, let's face it, you try to figure out what I could have done different with that. The other thing is that when you have a game that you may not have had an ejection, that you should have, those sometimes eat you more than actually getting the ejection. And anybody that's been umpiring for a while will tell you that, is that the ones that got away are the ones that eat at you more. But the biggest thing is learn from them. Learn what you did. Did you do something that might have provoked a player? Did you talk back to them where you opened up the door where they could bark back at you? And this is what I looked at when I put this together. I have a situation, and a lot of you folks that umpired remember that when they hit a home run, they had to run the bases. You know, a lot of us remember that, right? So we had a situation in one game where I had a ball player arguing about balls and strikes, who was the batter, and I more or less told him, just hit the ball and keep your mouth quiet. Well, he decided that he was going to put it out of the park, and on his way to second base, he decided to point back towards home plate, let me have it. He then started, as he rounded second base, let me have it some more. And then about shortstop area, he realized that he's got to come home. And guess who's standing at home plate? So from shortstop area all the way to home plate, he's got his head down and basically in a home run trot, not looking up, not anything else, and comes into home plate, steps on home plate, and goes right to the dugout. So after the inning was over with, he came up and he says, I thought for sure you were going to eject me. Why? I started it. I basically opened up the door for you. So basically at this point, I'm just to blame as you are. So, I mean, you didn't go on any farther, so we're good. And after that, we didn't have a problem with him. But, you know, those are the things you have to look at. So like I said, you learn from each encounter. Could you get away with that? Probably not. In some cases, you probably can't. Other times, you may. But like I said, each encounter that you have with handling players and coaches are going to be different. And you just have to learn off of that and use whatever you learn from them as far as an experience. Okay? So any other questions at this point? Well, you guys are really, must be either sleeping. I put you out of sleep, huh?
Nothing in the chat, Brian.
I'm sorry, what was that, Matt?
Nothing in the chat. No current questions in the chat. If somebody does have a question, just go ahead and unmute and you can ask it.
I would say, well, okay, I have a question with handling players and coaches. I'll ask you folks this. One of the situations handling players and coaches, what happens is if you got two teams that are starting to bark at each other, and should we take a situation where we should step in and say something? Or should we just let it go so that it gets to a point where now they may come into pushing and shoving and fisticuffs?
I've always felt that preventative umpiring is always the key. Just pull the coaches together at home plate and say, knock it off, guys, we're going to be done.
There you go. That's, if you have to bring the coaches back out, they're responsible for their players. And that's what they have to do. If they are not going to be responsible for their players, then just let them know that, somebody's going to be leaving and it's not going to be good. If they have a situation where it does get out of hand, and a situation where now we have, heaven forbid, pushing and shoving on the field and everything else, if you can't get it taken care of in the first initial wave of keeping the players separated and everything else, just get out of there. Don't be involved with that, trying to break them up. We don't want you, falling on the ground and getting pushed over. We don't need you to take a punch that you didn't see coming and so forth. Sit back. You've got, especially the plate umpire, you got your lineup card and you got your pen. Start taking down numbers. If you see people throwing punches and everything else, this is where it needs to be as far as handling a report at the end of the day. So those are the things that, I think out of the years that we've had ball games, I mean, they are far and few between. So that's what you have to look at. So, okay. Anything else at this point?
No,
Okay.
and we know you've got to get your other meetings, so thank you for
Yep.
doing our
Well, I want to thank you once again, Laura, for setting these up, and also for everybody that was on this call. Our district 11 has been the leaders in a lot of things, and it showed once again being able to be one of the first calls that we've had with meetings with our district, which is great. No matter what I end up doing as far as at the national level, this district still means a lot to me, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to talk to you folks. If you have any questions or anything, give me a holler and we'll go from there. Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you so much. Enjoy the rest
Thanks,
of the evening. Yep. Take care.
Guys, I'm going to finish what Brian sent me his agenda, so I'm just going to finish up what he has left, which thank God is only handling the lineup cards. I know during leagues, a lot of times we don't have time to do the lineup cards like we really should, and it creates a bad habit. But remembering that we're going to have 2 qualifiers this year and 2 state tournaments within our district, I would totally appreciate if you guys would start picking up the lineup card ritual more so. So to start off with, you've got to keep track. You get the lineup usually after your pregame meeting. You look at your lineup cards with both coaches. They've already given a copy to the scorekeeper, and so check it. I've been in more than one, especially co-ed games, where you look down and they get the wrong names, but they're multi-sex names, so you really can't tell. So you might want to just ask if you don't know that that's a girl and that's a guy, because that'll mess up your lineup sheet and your game so quickly. It's just awful, because it's happened to me. So keep track of all your substitutions in and out after that point. Once you got your lineup, you've looked at it, you've started the game, someone comes up. They do not have to put their subs, by the way, on the lineup card. It's recommended, and at state tournaments, as a tournament director, I'll require it, but it's not required type thing. So, but take the time and keep track of it. In fast pitch, we've got with your conferences and so on, you've got to keep track of those. Even in slow pitch, ignore those. So keep track of that on your lineup card. You've got to keep track of home runs on your lineup card. Ejections. If you warn a player, what I do is if I say something to a coach about a specific player, I will put a little star by their name. Passive aggressive me, so that I know, yeah, I did talk about him once. He's being kind of a dick. So keep track of that. Anyone else have any ideas that you should keep track of on your lineup card? Guys, just unmute and talk. No?
Yeah, make sure you do courtesy runners and substitutions.
Perfect. Thank you, Bob. Yep, that's real important. And with in fast pitch, you guys have to keep track of your DP and flex and all that stuff, right? So don't you keep track of that on your lineup card as well? I haven't done fast pitching since before flex. So
The other thing, especially in some of the games where there's a penalty for having multiple conferences in the same half inning, make sure you write down what inning, how many runners were on, how many outs there were. So you've got all that information to battle back and say, coach, you're gone because, you know, you already had a conference.
yeah, you've got it logged right in front of you. Lineup cards can be really handy. You can also keep track if you're and in fall ball, we don't have scorekeepers a lot of times. You can also keep track of the score on your lineup card. I've known, was it Mark Sessick that used to put rocks in his pocket, I think, to keep track of the score in co-ed? Or was that innings? Might have been innings. So there's a lot of different tricks though to your lineup card.
Any weather related issues? Delay
Yeah.
if you're delayed, you know, runners count and all that kind of stuff and go on your lineup card.
Thanks, Jay. That was great. Also, if you have an ejection, you can make note of anything specific on the back of your lineup card for that team. That would be helpful too. Because sometimes we don't have scorekeepers. I mean, it's great when we do because they can help us out a little bit. But if you don't have them, you got to have some place to keep track of that stuff. You are totally responsible for the game. So if your lineup card's off, it can mess everything up. And the scorekeepers are only going to take what's on your lineup card for their scorekeeping if you've got a scorekeeper. So just remember, it's your game. Run it like it should be. Whatever you do with your lineup card, make sure it's specific to you. I use some shorthand things that maybe Matt wouldn't like, you know, with checks and minuses and fingers and all that. But make it yours, just like doing shorthand for secretaries. Not all shorthand can be read by everyone, even though there's a broad look at shorthand, a taught way to do shorthand.
And something else too, Laura, is make sure it's legible. There could always be cases where I know it's your personal lineup cards. You just might write however which way you run away, but there could be a case where the umpire, whoever is the home plate umpire, has to leave the game for it could be a health reason, family emergency, whatever. So that lineup card has to be handed off to another umpire.
Odd that you would say that because I had that situation when my son Cody was 3 years old at the Energy Fest in Mount Pleasant. It was one of the very first all-female crews, a three-woman umpire system, if it would be. And I was on the plate, and my husband Brian walked up to the fence, and he goes, "We got to go." And he said, "Cody's hurt, we got to go." I just took my ball bag off, handed it to the first base umpire and said, "See ya." And so she had to literally decipher my lineup card. And I did hear some shit about it. So.
Well, 2 years ago, Laura, I was doing a varsity game in Ann Arbor. And something happened to the other umpire and he couldn't make it. So I filled in. Well, the game, they had started the game the night before, but because of darkness, they couldn't finish it. Well, when we got to the field, I can't even remember who I was working with, but he had the perfect lineup card, and the coach from one of the teams from, I can't remember where, tried to pull a fast one and say that their fastest runner was on second base. Well, come to find out, it wasn't their fastest runner. It was the catcher who weighed about 240 pounds. And they ended up losing the game because she got tossed out at the plate. And if he hadn't had that scorecard, bad things could have happened.
Yep. it
And
could've
and
got-
the other coach didn't even realize it. So it is important to keep a good scorecard.
Anyone else have any good stories about stuff like that? No? Has everyone done their safe sports yet already?
I tried to today, but I'm having issues with my password. So
Oh, well, you can get that figured out.
One of the
Yeah.
things I had a national tournament with lineup cards. They ended up screwing up and had double number in there because he wrote a number in wrong. Those are clerical errors. As long as it's the right person, you can just change the number and keep right on and going. We had it done twice in the same tournament where they screwed up on the numbers. We were able to just get them changed and off we went.
Well, that can also be handled in your pregame conference, because if you run down the players' names, it's the same as with that co-ed example I gave you. Numbers would fall under that preventative umpiring. You know?
Yeah, both time I was out in the field, so I was able to straighten them out.
That's what national tournaments depend on Michigan umpires for, darn it.
It brings up a good point too, because we did have an issue last year with players wearing triple-digit numbers in tournaments. We actually had a player with a 000, and he actually made it on the lineup card, played the entire game, actually hit the game-winning home run. The other team actually at that point decided to protest the game because the player was wearing an illegal number. Which, you know, I heard there were some issues, but the umpires did not change the call. They let the game and the player, stand. It's just one of the things you have to make sure you look when you're looking over the lineup card. Make sure there's no triple-digit numbers or duplicate numbers.
Okay. If we don't have anything else, I just want to remind you all that we are going to have 2 qualifiers and 2 state tournaments. I will send that out in an email if I haven't already. I thought I did, but I'll send that out in an email with the dates on it, and I will send out an availability form. I'm trying to get a Google Calendar so that you can sign up for tournament days through there, but I'm getting there. I'm trying to be techie, but so remember that we've got those coming up. And if you guys want to go to a national tournament, there's 2, and they're in February. I think they're both in February, and I'll send an email out about that as well. Okay. And I did find out that even if you registered last year and didn't work a single game, you still have to pay this year's registration fee. Okay. I had that question, so I knew it.
Did we get a free shirt?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? I registered but didn't work. Yeah, no, they're gonna make us register again. So, any other questions, y'all? No.
Tess, you wanted to share a video? Did you want to do that with everybody or just afterwards with Laura and me? And if you're talking, you're on mute.
Well,
I just want to try it after we're all done. So kind of make sure that what I've got planned for my session will work.
Okay. Sounds good.
Another reminder is that January 19th, which is next Tuesday, I believe, is our next session. And Jamie is actually going to do his presentation. I sent it out in an email, but I'm just reminding you. Jamie's going to do game management and professionalism next Tuesday, and Gary's going to switch down to Jamie's state. So just a mental note. So, thank you all.
I will say too, if I could just say one more thing, if you do have any issues with how the Zoom meeting went, if you have any other questions or concerns, you can just shoot me back an email, and I can respond. I just want to make sure this kind of meeting works for everybody. So if there was something you didn't like, let me know. Maybe we can try and change it. But other than that, I really do appreciate everybody joining. We had 20 participants, Laura.
Well, make that 19 because the Galaxy Tab A is mine.
Oh, okay.
Sitting next to my computer because I was reading Brian's agenda.
Gotcha.
Craziness. And thank you, Matt, for doing all this. Matt has become a pretty reliant. I'm reliant on him for this internet stuff. I can't do this. And that's okay. But thanks, Matt. Good job.
Okay.
Matt,
Thanks.
Hey, Laura, are you gonna want scorekeepers for those tournaments?
Oh, yes, I am, honey. You're
Okay.
going to be umpiring, aren't you, this year, though?
No. Nope.
Ooh, I will put you on my list.
Yeah, put me on the list for scorekeeping and then I'll let you know what I've got. It's
Okay.
a hectic schedule because college volleyball's spring and so are taxes and
Oh, yeah.
it's a
Taxes
little,
are going to be fun this year, huh?
let's not go there.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thanks, son.
Yep.
What is that?
That's football game from the start.
oh yeah, you gotta get to that.
Oh, there you go. Now we have to end the meeting for sure.
Everyone, bye.
All right. Take it easy, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Scott, you get my text? Did you get my text, Scott?
He's muted. He can't hear you.
He can hear me.
Yeah.
He can hear me. Did you get my
Where'd it
text?
go?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
All right, then.
All right.
Later.
Later. Hey, Matt, what email was that? Was that the very first one she sent out or one of the more recent ones?
And well, it's the same list that Laura sends out when she sends her emails out to everybody. It's that same email list. I just replied to that one.
Okay.
So if you have something different, let me know.
I'll take a look. So there should have been a different link on for like all four
Yeah,
meetings?
what I did was I created a link for each meeting for all the 4 clinician meetings, and just
Okay.
replied back to that email that Laura sent out a while back. So each one of the meeting links should be in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Laura's going to send them out, I think, each week too as a reminder.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
They'll be coming down the pipes. Well, good luck with your knee.
Thanks.
I hope it
Yeah.
gets better.
Yeah, physical therapy is about done, and then I've been just trying to get to the gym and work out. So
Good.
it's been working some. So
Now, Lori, you want to hang on while I try to share my screen?
I will. I will indeed.
Okay, here we go, Matt.
Yeah, it should work for you. I don't have to do anything.
I clicked on share my screen, but nothing happened. Host disabled participant screen sharing. That's you.
It says
Oh,
one
man.
participant can share. I don't know. Try it now.
Oh, looky there. Select the window.
Must have been a different setting. I clicked a different setting.
I can't make my screen go for it. Oh, here it is.
Here we go.
Yep.
I
Good
see
job.
Yeah, I just want to, oh, shoot.
So you're going to do YouTube videos during it.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
what I have to see if it works.
That's pretty cool. Shut up, Joe.
Oh, where you been?
He's been here for a while. He's just been quiet, which he should be now. Oh,
Runner on first base only. Starting position.
I don't see it.
Working the two umpire system in fast pitch.
You don't see it?
The starting
Yeah, you're gonna have to move your video. You got to share your video screen because it's separate from your PowerPoint screen.
to the first base side of the second baseman. Shading the lead runner and square to the plate. Go to the ready position at the start of the pitch.
So I have to go back to the Zoom call and share that one?
Yeah, go back to your share screen option and then select the window that has your video on it.
All right. So I'm gonna have to go back and forth, share back and forth because, you know, I've got the question on the slide, you know, with the possible answers. And then the next slide has the answer and then the rule about it. And then the YouTube video. So,
there's a different method of putting the videos into PowerPoint
okay.
so that it plays like a slide. It doesn't actually open up a separate screen.
Okay.
And if you set your I can't tell you how to do that off the top of my head, but if you set up your PowerPoint like that, then you don't have to switch back and forth. It'll just
Yeah, you have to embed the video into the PowerPoint versus just doing a link.
There you go. What Matt said.
Mm.
But if you do it that way, then when you hit play, it'll play the video and you won't have to switch between screens.
All right, I'll work on that. That's why I wanted to try it tonight, why we had people that could give me feedback.
One question.
Yep.
I asked today, do you guys think it would be advantageous for us to send our agendas out in an email so that it's easier to follow through? Because I had Brian's agenda tonight and it did make it easier. If I got a drink and I'm still listening, but I might have missed something, I could look at that agenda.
Well, for my meeting, probably not. I'm just doing case plays. I mean, I'll talk a little bit at the beginning and then I'm just gonna have slides where here's a case play, here's a, you know, answer to choose from, and then we'll talk about the right answer and the rule reference, and then that's these videos where it has the starting position for the umpire and then the actual mechanic.
I get all that, but what I'm saying is, would sending out the papers alleviate the screen issues with your videos? The embedding of the videos, would that take care of that if they can read what you have?
No.
I don't think so.
What do you think about the agenda thing?
I think the agenda thing is fine. I don't, from what Tess described at hers, I don't think it would really apply. I mean, it would have like opening comments and then Facebook plays, but but for some of the other ones, if they've got different points that they got to cover, you know, if they've got an agenda made, it doesn't hurt to share that kind of stuff. You know, if Tess doesn't mind, it wouldn't hurt to share her PowerPoint. You know, all this kind of stuff can be emailed. You know, if people want to share it and see it, sometimes people like to have that PowerPoint that they can read themselves, or maybe they can put it up on another screen, or they can go back to it later if they want to, something like that. You could do, I mean, so if Tess is good with giving up her PowerPoint, we could do that. But we're recording these anyway, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I guess that doesn't really matter. But yeah, I don't think the agenda's